Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode about the movies with William Fletcher. As per usual, I am your host, William Fletcher, and I'm joined, as per usual, by my usual partner in crime, Mr. Harry Jobson.
I'm so far away right now.
Yeah, if Harry's audio sounds different than usual, for better or for worse, he's recording in a completely different country, so...
I can give him the breakdown. So just for reference, I'm sitting in a bath at the base of Mount Fuji in Japan, because this is the only place in our Airbnb that isn't going to have people come in it for about an hour or so. And I've got myself an Asahi, and I mean, when in Rome or when in Japan. But yeah, so if it's a bit delayed or if I sound a bit different, that's why.
But yes, this week is it's a special one because we'll be going out. This is Valentine's Day special, but we're here Valentine's Day special. There isn't really anything. There is the new Wuthering Heights film, but I did an episode on that last week, so didn't need to do it 2 weeks in a row. We both chose a film, so it's going to be like a double bill episode. Harry was, and the film Harry chose, he has been quite adamant that we cover it on the show.
To the extent, William, and I'm going to say it now, I was having a discussion with my friends last night, and we were speaking about, our favourite films of all time, and I was looking at my list, and I thought, I think it might genuinely be top three favourites ever for me. When I look at, favourite, now I'm not saying, and I understand it is nothing but pure comfort for me, but, I mean, and we'll discuss it, I guess now.
The first film we're going to talk about this week is 10 Things I Hate About You, which was Harry's choice for this episode. And yeah, this is one of those films where, for those of you because this isn't usually get recorded or anything, Harry has films he always sort of is, says we should talk about and cover on the show at some point.
If it's ever relevant, really. It's typically when we're talking about sort of our outside of the talk about favorite films, or I think also about reinterpretations, because we have covered films that have been reinterpretations before. And 10 Things I Hate About You is a retelling and a reiteration, a reinterpretation of Shakespeare's Taming of the Shrew, the tale of the shrew is she's a shrew of the sister, and a man is paid to seduce the sister so the brother can get a younger sister, even though the father forbids either one of dating unless the shrew dates first, which is the most basic form of, that is the most basic explanation of Taming of the Shrew. And it is 10 Things I Hate About You with, Joseph Gordon-Levitt and he, I'd say, they call them the protagonists of the film. They're probably the most
I was thinking about this a little bit, because the way the film is and sort of the way it's structured, it seems like Joseph Gordon-Levitt is your protagonist, but then he almost isn't, because...
We learn nothing about his life or his family or anything like that.
Yeah, and because then Heath Ledger and Julia Stiles are sort of... their relationship is focused on much more than Joseph Gordon-Levitt and the other actress whose name I cannot remember for the life of me, because she's... Yeah, the younger sister. That sort of gets forgotten about. Not forgotten about per se, but it doesn't get as much focus.
And it doesn't really get nearly as... it's not nearly as developed, because I think the idea is that, the relationship that we're watching Heath Ledger's is the one that takes the most work, whereas Joseph Gordon-Levitt kind of just teaches her, was that French? And then he's like, why don't you, I've been such a good friend to you, and then she kisses him and it's dating. And it's a bit more complex than that. He has a lot more side of that, and there's a lot of dialogue between him and Heath Ledger in that sort of sense about him being able to get her. But a lot of the strongest moments of the films are coming from like the other relationship we're seeing.
Gonna get sort of stuck right into it. This is a film I've seen. I rewatched it for the purposes of this, but it's a film I've seen quite a few times. Watch this. The like before this rewatch, I think I'd only seen it like in high school, and it was one of the films, not quite one of the first films to watch when I was getting into films, because it's not like that kind of film, but it was something I was just scrolling through a streaming service, and I was like, oh, I've heard of that film. I've heard it's good. I'll check it out, and it's like 90 minutes. It's a very I think that this film, I mean, to just start past is kind of insane. Like, let me like just get up the full cast list, but this is like, we have Heath Ledger, R.I.P. obviously,
Yeah.
very very good actor, and I mean we did The Dark Knight when we did the whole Christopher Nolan retrospective, so we've talked about Heath Ledger before. And I mean, I don't remember where you landed on the joke, because you're not like the biggest fan of Batman as a character. You think Batman's kind of shit.
And so, right, I think in animated series he comes across really well, but live action he's
Yeah,
never really
that's
been done right. I've found the closest is the newest, the Batman, but Heath Ledger's Joker, and I mentioned it when we talked about the episode, is the reason people love this film. I love that film, and it's the large reason. Like he is the best moments of 10 Things I Hate About You in a pretty like early on, but later would become quite a star-studded cast.
Yeah, like this was kind of one amongst the first things a lot of these actors had done. Certainly major things. Like I'm sure they'd all done things before, but this was like the thing that like is the most notable thing they had done, where they were like the lead characters. I mean, yeah, you've got Heath Ledger, who is really good in this. I like that they let him keep his Australian accent. I do really, really get annoyed. Like, not annoyed, but I'm just like, just let Australians just use that. It just, Australian accents just sound better than American accents.
Yeah, they're a lot less obnoxious, and
it's like,
especially
it's
when
like
an Australian accent is trying to do an American accent, it comes out just so.
Yeah, and it's like, whenever I see a film with Colin Farrell in it and they have him play American, it's like you're just neutering him. Like, why are you doing this? Why are you making Colin Farrell not Irish? Like, I also think the charm might not come through as well if he was an Australian. Like, I think the thing is, Australian accents, and maybe it's just because I'm so used to them, they just are inherently more charm likable than American accents.
Yeah, essentially, I think that American accents, I said it before, can come across quite obnoxious. So I think it's important to I think it actually plays like a rather important role. With like that's quite the impact in the film, being able to like be authentic.
I think that the thing with it is because he is very the whole part of his characters, he's very mysterious. People don't know anything about him. And by making him not American, it does sort of play into that a bit more. But we've also got Joseph Gordon-Levitt in here as again, at the beginning, it sort of frames it as if he's going to be like the main character, and then he kind of isn't.
Yeah, I mean, the conflict is only really because like none of it happens without him, like his character's motivations, really.
I mean, he's the
he
new
really
kid. He's
nearly
the new kid, yeah.
But like the whole reason that like he hires Heath Ledger's character to try to like seduce, just so so she dates Heath Ledger so he can go and date the younger sister.
And I think one thing I was sort of thinking about is because you're a big rom-com guy just in general. You're a big fan of, and I think I don't. There's like a handful of rom-coms I enjoy, but I found that generally speaking, I prefer films about relationships falling apart, which I think says a lot about me as a person.
Yeah, I mean,
because of my cynical and pessimistic nature. But I think the reason why is because I think that's more interesting and it feels more real. because a lot of rom-coms are just kind of feel, not all of them, there are good ones, but a lot of them just feel, they don't feel real. It just feels like a make-believe version of reality.
Yeah, I think in some extent, and you're absolutely right. Like a lot of rom coms are. There are some that aren't. So, I mean, some of my favorites are that way. I quite like The Wedding Singer. It's a rom com with Adam Sandler and Drew Barrymore, and
Mm.
that's it's so insanely like exaggerated in every way possible. But that's what the film's about. Like it's like so you can enjoy it for what it is. I'm not enjoying it as like a relatable thing. But then there are some that try to be real, but it just like you've got the Hallmark movies where a girl comes home for Christmas and she lives in a mansion and it's a snow town in Aspen and she falls in love with the fucking local baker who she grew up with, and he was
Mm.
her neighbor and all this sort of shit. And that's just like
Yeah,
that is ridiculous.
and yeah,
It's a good
and
thing,
it
don't get me
ends
wrong,
with
but it's ridiculous.
her. Yeah, and she's the strong, independent woman, and she just needs a good man to teach her right. And she has
He's
this
a lawyer
massive,
in the big
successful
city, yeah.
career. Yeah, and then it's just like, oh no, you just need it. And then she's like, oh, I don't want to have kids. And then by the end, she's been convinced that having kids is the right thing to do, and you're fucking crazy if you don't. Like
And she settles
those are
down in
the
her
those
small town, living in her mega mansion. Yeah.
Yeah, like those are the films I hate. Like I think rom-coms, there is an art to the rom-com. They need to be funny, which a lot of them attempt to be and they're not. The relationship needs to feel real. And I think this film does both of those very well. I forgot rewatching it how funny this movie times.
Oh my
Like
god! Especially the dialogue between Joseph Gordon-Levitt and his name escapes me, but he's quite a familiar face.
David Krumholtz, the
Yeah, the Shakespearean Etherean
Yeah,
character.
which when
Yeah.
I first saw this, I thought that was Oscar Isaac. I was like, that looks a lot like him, and I'm like, it's not him, but it does
Mhm.
look like him. And I think this film it does a very good job at representing high school in a lot of ways because you see films about high school and it's just like high school isn't fucking like that. Like this isn't there's you watch films about high school or set in high school and it's just like no 17-year-old actually talks like that.
I quite like the. I think she's the guidance counselor or the principal. She's writing like the sexual fan
Oh,
fiction novel.
Allison Janney.
Yeah, her character so great in this film as well. She's so good as comedic relief, and realistically, like the teachers in the school are believable as well. They're not just like the characters are given depth. They critique the young people by saying like, "What are
Yeah,
you doing? Why are you doing this? Like, grow up!" Like all this sort of
and yeah, I really like it was the English teacher.
yeah,
I think he's English teacher. He's like he just has those like moment where there's like the kids who think they're trying to be Rastafarians, and he's like, "Don't even get me started," and he gets really annoyed at them. I think he's really great comedic relief. Like I think the film does a real and it hasn't aged badly as a comedy either. Like there are certain high school comedies especially where it does age a bit. Like it's a time, and that's not the film's fault. Yeah, like that's the thing. Like there are where it's or like when you watch a film set in high school and they all call each other gay or gay slurs. It's like, yeah, teenage boys are like that. I don't know if they are now
yeah.
as much, but they certainly were. It certainly was very
But
common
yeah,
in
like
high school. And I don't see a problem with that in the sense of like, it's just how teenagers talk. And I don't expect teenagers to be moral bastions. You know what I mean? Like I don't
yeah,
it's this thing of it's not worth getting bothered by because it's just how teenagers talk. It's dishonest to say they don't talk like this because they do. Yeah, it doesn't bother me. It's just like I don't know if it would be written that same way now, even if that is
yeah.
accurate to reality.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think not only is it accurate, and this is more so now getting deep in it, like getting through the film now, like, but the sequences that they're portrayed incredibly well. Like a lot of the moments of parties or
Yeah,
classrooms or just general social interactions feel and are executed quite well to the point where they do feel authentic, and it helps with that film's aging process. We see them do sport, we see them do school, we see them do the motions.
yeah,
The younger characters, the characters actually look their age in this film relatively. The party senses are like accurate, getting up on tables, dancing, the way they would react that way to that. And I think it accurately depicts like working through your feelings as a late teen in
yeah.
like a sort
It
of high school
yeah,
relationship. And no, but that just comes down to like the way the soundtrack, which is phenomenal.
yeah. It's a
Like
really
I
it's a
love
good
it.
night. I would say it's a good 90s soundtrack, but I think it's a very good sound. Like you've got Bad Reputation in there. Like that's all like just a
Yeah,
like it's an obvious classic. It's used in so many films, but like it is a good song, and it also it does just fit. You've got the probably the most iconic scene, certainly one of the most iconic scenes when Heath Ledger's character he takes the what is it? He takes like the mic and he sings the song to Julia Stiles on the like
oh,
steps
I love
basically.
you, baby. Yeah, that sequence is
Uh,
iconic and it's so
it's
great. And
yeah, it's such a great moment, and I think I mean I assume it's Heath Ledger actually singing for real because I don't know why you
yeah, you can hear
wouldn't,
his accent
you
in it
know.
as well. When he sings,
Um,
"You're just too good to be true," you can
and
hear it.
it's a scene that is like in theory so cheesy, it's so silly, but it also is like it does just
And it's the biggest moment of the film as well. Like that's the sort of climax.
yeah, and it works so well because it's sort of him as a character realizing like, oh, I kind of have to go. You know, it's this big declaration of love to make up for what he's done. Which, by the way, I completely forgot about this, but I like it. Is that when she goes to kiss him, he doesn't kiss her because she's drunk and concussed, and it's not ethical. I think that is a really
Yeah,
really good moment because so many comedies, especially like high school comedies, they're like, oh, we got to get the girls drunk so they'll kiss us, whatever, and it's like, oh, that's
we're gonna
not
get
very
paid.
good.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah. I
and
mean,
one I
super
want
bad
to point
comes to
to
mind,
is
but
Super Bad comes to mind, and they make a whole point of that. Like Michael Cera's character is literally like, well, if she's drunk and I'm not, it's not ethical. And and fucking Jonah Hill's like, no, 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 man, you just got to get drunk too, then it'll be fine. It's like, I mean, like they play with the ethic. They talk about the ethics of that, and I think that's really forward thinking. Really, that they're thinking
yeah,
about it on that level because that is a thing that has dated very badly in a lot of like high school comedies. Is they're like, oh, we have to
oh,
get the girl
absolutely.
drunk, so we have to get them drunk so they'll sleep with us because it's just like, oh man, that's so very illegal.
That's rape. It's actually rape.
Yeah, I mean, it is like
And
diction by like legal and dictionary definition. It is, and it's just like, and the problem is it is very pervasive. Like it is just in a lot of it's a common like it's a trope basically of the genre, and I do like that this film makes a point of he does it, and like she gets upset at him, and I think it's interesting because I can see like from her perspective why she is upset.
it's as if she's been leading him on, yeah. Or
Yeah, but
he's been
also
leading her on, yeah.
yeah, but he makes the right choice in that moment to not because it's illegal, it's a crime, and he's a good person. Like the film makes it a point as
Yeah.
he's very mysterious and he's sort of a bad boy, quote unquote, but he's a he's not a bad person. He's a very good, he makes,
Yeah,
these
no,
big
that's a
gestures.
misinterpretation of his character. He puts that up as like
Yeah.
a wall. His character puts it up as a wall but he is a really great guy. He gives incredible advice to Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character,
Yeah.
and acts in almost like a big brother role to him a lot of the film. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's like his character is so well rounded, and once you get into it, you really root for him. And yeah, he is paid to do it, but you can sort of
Mm.
tell that he truly does.
Yeah.
Probably, I mean, it's a rom com.
Yeah.
He does fall in love with what is it, Kat Dennings? The character's name is.
Is that the character? That's not.
Is it?
Well, there's the actress. Is it not? Let me check. Because I
Wait,
swear I know
what's
there's
the character's name?
Pat Stratford.
Stratford.
Yeah, I was gonna
Yeah.
say Kat Dennings is the one of the two
Actress.
broke girls, and she was in a
Yeah,
couple of
no,
the
that
Thor
makes sense in
films.
my head
Yeah.
because I'm not gonna lie, I have recently been rewatching Two Broke Girls. Sorry, Cat was Cat.
Yes, Kat is her name.
But
Yes.
yeah. Anyway, yeah, Stratford. But yeah, because they make a big point that she is also sort of an outcasted, and she's done that to herself, and it's due to this
Mm.
character who's like a young budding male model who is also great comedic relief throughout the film.
Oh, he's great. He's such a dick of a character, but he's really funny. And there's like because he's being like a model, and then there's several moments where he's like doing the poses to Kat's sister, and he's like, and then he's like, okay, this is the pose for the like speedos or whatever, and then here's the one with the board shorts and and it's
And it's
like
identical
based like
clothes.
yeah, and it's not like a unique joke. Like I've seen stuff like that before, but it's a classic joke. Like it's a simple joke, but it just works so well. And he's this real like he's a bit of a he's a pretty unlikable character at times. Like he's a very
He is
well
the antagonist.
yeah, he's the and I mean he is sort of the block between Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and what he wants. And as you mentioned before, another sort of really great moment from the film is when they're at this party, and it's like, oh, I don't know, I thought she was worth it, but she isn't. And then Hitler just like, look, he is not the afterman you are, and like, don't let him make you feel like you don't, just like he just gives really, really great advice. And I think the chemistry between those two, like I think this cast, they all play off each other really well. Like they all feel like
Oh yeah.
real high school kids. And I mean a lot of them were like 18 years old or something. Like I think they're all like 18. I think Heath Ledger like 20, which is basically teen, like he's barely, old, like you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like it's that
he's still very young adult. Like,
yeah,
and I
like
think
he
that
does yeah, he's got a
is what
very
helps it
young
make
looking
it. Like,
face.
but these are all like components of what helps it make what help makes it a really good young film. No, a really good high school film outside of just being a
Mm.
rom com. Like it is quintessentially like it's executed really well, and it should be like considered a lot higher than I think it is for that sort of, I guess, high school as a genre.
I do get a lot out of films set in high school because it was such a it's a big part of everyone's life. You do 6 years of it.
And it's when you change and develop and become the most. Like it's sort of
Yeah.
where you figure out who you are, and it, it's incredibly important, and it's incredibly commonly portrayed in film. I mean, Mean Girls, Easy A, Super Bad.
One of the things that I sort of found with the film is I don't know. I don't know if I'd say it's badly structured. It like the structure feels a bit odd though, like because it sort of does the same few bits of like Kat and Patrick and Keith Ledger. They sort of get together for a little bit,
Yeah,
and they split up, and then they get together for a little bit, and they split. Like it does that a few too many. Like it does it a couple times in the film,
yeah, they're very hot throughout the film.
and I don't. It doesn't detract like too much from the film. Like it doesn't. It's not a particularly big criticism. Like hate it or anything. It's just sort of like in terms of writing, it's a bit of a it's an interesting choice because it doesn't feel like I don't know. I don't think it needed all of it.
I think I agree, and that was my biggest takeaway this film. My almost one of my main and only negatives. Like, obviously, it's not like a Scorsese or a Nolan or a Tarantino, but it's a
Yeah,
fucking Disney movie. But it is really well rounded, except for the one fact that that relationship, and we mentioned it before, is the most focused on one, but it just focuses on the exact same beats like 3 times,
yeah,
and they do the exact same thing until the very end, where like all of it comes out, and then it's bad, and then they end up together, which is a rom com anyway, which is what you want to see. Whereas Joseph Gordon-Levitt's relationship is only given one conflict and an immediate resolution.
they get a real it because like there's the whole thing where him and Bianca, I think is the younger sister.
Yeah, Bianca.
Her whole thing, they meet, he asks her out, she sort of it doesn't say it. I like it doesn't it sort of and then they sort of he has sort of
He's
that
like,
bit
"Oh,
where he
you're
sort
a
of
great friend," or whatever. Yeah.
yeah, which by the way, the friend I mean the friend look, anyone who complains about the friend zone is a fucking idiot. Like I just want to make that clear. It's fucking stupid. Like it's just such an annoying thing. It's like just move on with your life, mate. Like just move on. She's not
Yeah,
interested. She's
you
been,
have to.
like that's the thing. That's what bothers. I see all these posts online and Instagram comments are like, "Oh, this girl, the friend zone and blah 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 blah." It's like, dude, just fucking. There are fucking like 7 billion fucking people on this planet. Like you
Four
will be
billion of
fine.
them are women.
Yeah,
Fucking
and who knows?
even
Maybe
in
into
Australia, there are 30 million people. 15 million are women. I'd say probably 10 million are adult women. I'd say probably 7 million are the ones that could be within your dating pool. I'd say 3 million to maybe single. Like, there's still a lot more than the one that isn't keen. You don't have to,
yeah,
send her flowers all the fucking time and a whole like kiss her ass. But at the same time, I
yeah.
understand like feelings, like you can get attached and
No,
emotionally
no.
attached to all
Look,
this sort of
like,
stuff. Like
yeah,
we're only human.
I sort of wanted to make it like, look, I totally get the idea of you like this girl and then you find out they don't like you back. Like, I totally get that. Like, that is fortunate and it hurt. Like, I can completely get that it hurts, but like at a certain point, you have to be like, okay, this is the reality. They're not interested. I should, stop pining for this person, because it's not going to happen. And like you can't help that, like it sucks, but it's something that at a certain point is out of your control. And
Yeah,
it's like it's
absolutely.
best to not pursue, like if you know they're not interested, don't pursue it because that's just fucking weird as well.
Yeah, you're putting that person, guy or girl, or that person in general, in an uncomfortable position and in a position that's just not fair for them. So,
Yeah,
that's a little PSA. But like
yeah,
the
but
film is a
yeah,
bad example of that because he just fucking that does not matter to him. He just keeps going. And look,
yeah,
he
no,
gets the girl.
he
Um,
sees look, she is the first girl he sees, and she's the only girl he is interested in for the rest of the movie. Like even her friend, he doesn't give a like he does not care. It is just all
there's
about
a,
that one girl.
and to a point where you almost have to respect it. And look, he get like it worked out for him.
You've got to respect the Sigma male grinds.
The Hustlers. He went to Hustlers University.
Yeah, no,
But
but yeah, no, I think
Sigma
that's sort of the
males, right?
weaker
Yeah.
element is that's one of the weaker elements is the way it sort of balances the two relationships because it feels like they sort of stretch the Heath Ledger Julia Stiles one too much and they don't stretch the Joseph Gordon-Levitt one enough to where they meet in the middle. Like it feels like one is being sort of left behind and then the one they're just pulling as far as they can, even if it's gonna, break it. Like it
That
You know,
being
so
said, the Julia Stiles Heath Ledger relationship does lean itself to having a lot more substance. And I'm not disappointed
it
with
is,
that, but it's
yeah,
absolutely true. Like they
it
do tend to
is,
rehash
yeah,
the same conflict and resolution a couple of times
yeah,
throughout the film.
and I think,
Doing the runtime is what a
yeah,
bit over an hour and a half. Yeah, which again, huge fan of that.
I think the film, one I think it does quite well is it so you were sort of mentioning before that this wasn't like exactly what you're saying, but like the Joseph Gordon-Levitt, his infatuation, I guess, is all superficial. Like it's all complete. Like he sees this girl and he just wants to. Which, to be fair, I will say that's quite realistic for a teenage boy. Like let's like I'm not gonna criticize him too much for that because that is like teenage boys are like that. Like I'm
Yeah,
not gonna
I've been
judge
there,
for
done
that
that.
because
Like, you
teenage
see a
boys are
pretty
like that.
girl and you go, yeah.
Yeah, with all the raging hormones and like puberty and all that shit. Like that's just teenage boys are like
Yeah,
that.
no,
So
exactly.
it's not unrealistic, but it doesn't necessarily lead to, and from a writing and a character perspective, it doesn't necessarily lead to the most fleshed out three-dimensional sort of relationship between those two. Whereas with Heath Ledger and Julie Stiles, he's being paid to do this. So, he's going out, he's asking her questions. He's learning about her. And she's learning about him a little bit too. So like it's more, you learn more about those two characters because they want to know more about each other. It's not
Yeah,
a looks based thing. He's not going after because of her look. He's been paid to, which is a very superficial reason. But he is sort of, he is learning about her.
doing
He
his
is,
job.
yeah, and over the course of that, because I don't think he's never like he never I don't think he is like a bad guy. I think dating someone for money is a questionable thing to do, but also he's like he's a flawed character if anything. Yeah, and he never becomes unlikable. Like even like the that's a key thing. The film never makes him an unlikable character because it could
It
very
only makes
easily
you more
turn.
likable the more you watch the film.
Like it could very easily he could very easily become an unlikable character, and the film does a remarkably good job of like keeping him from being unlikable. The film just wouldn't work if he was unlikable. A lot of what sells this film is that he is a likable, charming character, and you just can't help but like him. To put a rating on this film, I had this down as a 9, but I have since bumped it down to an 8. I still really like it. I still think it's really good. It just like is not as good as a 9 out of 10. And I also, like I said, the structure is a bit weird, like how they sort of bring the two sort of major relationships into it. Doesn't feel It feels uneven in what they're doing. Like one gets so much depth that they just end up repeating themselves at a certain point, and the other gets not as much depth, and you don't really learn anything about the people in it. So, and it's just a really good time. Like I could just pop this on, any day and have a good time with it. Like it's not particularly draining emotionally. It's very watchable. It's very fun. It's really funny. There's some really great jokes in it.
Yeah,
It's just a really fun watch, and I think it's kind of impossible to have a bad time with this film.
yeah, and that's the exact outlook I have with this film as well. And personally, to me, like how I feel about it in the way it and what it means to me, like and how I've enjoyed it growing up my whole life. It's a 10 out of 10, but like in the structure of the podcast and what we rate, it's an 8 out of 10, and that's because of some of the structure quirks that it has, and the fact that it doesn't really discuss anything too heavy, and not that all films need to, but it's the platform that it uses. Again, it's just a great watch to be watching. I think it's a great film. I think that it's not and I said earlier, it's not the Truman Show, and it's not to me. I love this film, but like objectively, what I'm saying. as well. It doesn't do anything groundbreaking. It doesn't do anything like cinematography wise, or like when it comes
Yeah.
to or anything. There's nothing distinctly technically great about it. It's just now it's so strong in its entertainment wise. So yeah, like in its value. So yeah, 8 out of 10. Happy with it, and we move on to your pick.
Yes, The Big Sick, which is something I also
Yeah.
wanted to rewatch. One of the reasons I chose 10 Things I Hate About, or I brought up doing 10 Things I Hate About You, is beyond the fact that you really want to talk about it, is also I wanted to rewatch it because I hadn't seen it in so long. Like, I've got a big list of films that I've just made a list of films that I'm like, I haven't seen that in like 5-6 years. I should watch that again. Like, I've got a bigger list that I'm just very slowly ticking off, to just see if films hold up for me. Because there's lots of films that I saw when I was like 16 or so, and I'm just like, I just need to know if that still works for me as someone like 20 now, like, or if it's like a film I saw when I was getting into film, and that's kind of when you like everything you watch. And with more experience and having seen lots more films since then. But The Big Sick was my pick for this one. This is the second time I watched it. I saw it a few years ago, but I did want to revisit it. Harry, had you seen this one before, or?
No, I hadn't, and I did watch it in preparation for this podcast before I flew over to Japan.
Okay.
And I've had a really big week. But like I do, it is still relatively fresh in my mind. Probably watched it about a month or ago. Well, when you first mentioned that you wanted to do a Valentine's podcast, I actually watched it about 2 days after that. And I wasn't that I just finished it up before I flew.
Okay.
But you mentioned earlier that
Okay.
you gravitate towards. You mentioned earlier you gravitate towards romance movies about relationships breaking down, and I think The Big Sick is that really.
That's, now that someone say that back to me, it sounds even worse in my mind.
Yeah, like it sounds bad here in the but you like when people get miserable. But there's still like it ends on a very sweet note, and I
Yeah,
really enjoyed watching it.
Yeah, I think it's about it's this is the thing is that this isn't like, it is about a bit about a relationship breaking down, but it's not completely about that. Like, so for those of you who haven't seen it or don't even know what it is, it's about Kumail Nanjiani, who plays himself because he is an actor by himself, just to just cast himself in that role. And it's about him meeting his wife, Emily Gordon, who isn't played by Emily Gordon because she's not an actor, she's like a writer basically. And it's just about their relationship up until she has to be put into a medically induced coma for some
due to an autoimmune
disease, which is very unfortunate and very the film, it's a big shock to to her, like, and to him, like, he doesn't, he and sort of when that happens, they have sort of broken up, like they've gotten together. We've seen some of the films been them together, like in a relationship as a couple, and then she finds out he's got this basically because he's Pakistani, he's the arranged marriage, which I look, I understand it's like a cultural thing, and look, I'm not going to say that one culture is right and which one's wrong. I just like it does feel so, I mean, it's very old fashioned.
Yeah, look, William, I'm not a huge fan of the idea, but at the same time, give me about 5 years, and like if I'm still where I'm at, sign me the fuck up. Like, like if something's better than like, no long-term relationship. But yeah,
it used to be a thing in like other countries. Like I like arranged marriage. Like it's not just like a Pakistan thing. Like India, but like a lot of not a lot of Asian countries, but some.
I believe a lot of South Asian countries.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of like in Middle Eastern, Southeast Asian, traditional,
Yeah,
largely still religiously tied countries do tend to do
yeah,
that, and a lot of the times it works out like in their case, but it is completely, and you use the perfect word, traditional. It's traditional
yeah.
and old.
And I don't look. There's I'm not like again. It's a cultural thing, and I'm not going to say like one culture is right more than the other because that's
Yeah,
not true. Obviously, it's like and I think it's just like it just is so completely different to the world I know that it looking at it from our perspective, it just is like it is it just looks it just doesn't it's I don't want to say it doesn't seem normal because that sounds wrong and that sounds offensive, but like it's very it's a very like it just shows how big cultural differences are between people, and how the and I do and it play and obvious and I'm assuming that most of this is all based off of real things that Kamel went
yeah,
through, like it's a
yeah,
biography
100%.
basically. It's a film about him and his wife and
Relationship.
them meeting. So I can believe and he's done material in his stand-up where he talks about being from Pakistan and Pakistani families and the cultural differences and everything. So I can believe it's true. I think this film it is I think this is a really really great film. I think
I agree.
it's really really funny. Like it's it's a rom-com that is funny because like as we mentioned before, a lot of rom-coms try to be funny and they just can't, and they're just
Mm.
not being. I think it's very fun. I mean, I am a big fan of Kumail Nanjiani. I don't know if you're like a
I,
fan or
I am too. I
particularly.
quite like him. Yeah, I'm a fan. Absolutely.
Yeah, I
Not
mean,
relatively like I don't actually caught most of the stand up, but I like him in I've never disliked him in a project I've seen.
yeah, like even if the project he's in isn't that great, he's usually good in it. Like how Eternals just they've not a particularly good Marvel movie, but he's very good in it. But I think he's giving an excellent performance here. I think he does the comedy very well, but he does bring the real emotion to it. And again, I'm sure like it is based off him and his real life. He's really channeling his own feelings into the work. And I think all great artists do that. I think most great artists channel their real life, their pain, and all the bad things that have happened to them into their art and into their work. Really great moments of emotion in it. It doesn't. It feels very real when it goes for the emotion beats, which other certain films sort of try to do, but they don't quite. Um, they don't quite land in the way that they should do.
I don't know with the big stick specifically, like as we're talking as it pertains to what we're talking about. I think the way it comes across is incredibly natural too. Like
Mm,
if we're actually getting into the film and talking about like her motivations as a character, it, yeah, her main motivation is to not be the reason he doesn't have a family. And this is all
yeah,
like a lot of the film happens while she's in a coma, and he kind of dates her parents.
yeah, which I think that's a really great element because she sort of goes into a coma at sort of the halfway point, maybe even a bit earlier than that. Like there's a good chunk of the film like she is
I'd
not
say
in.
the second act of the film is just him and her parents.
Yeah, and I think that really works well because I think I'm not sure if we've talked about him or not, but Ray Romano is great. I love Ray
I
Romano.
love
I think he's
everybody. Yeah,
yeah. I mean, everybody loves Raymond, as we know, but genuinely, I really like him. I think he's really really excellent in this. He's giving a really really great
yeah.
performance. Um, he's really funny. Like a lot of the
Yeah.
characters, they do very good comedic work as well as the big sort of emotional work, and I think that works as well as it does because of it's very well written. It's very engaging. It's very real, like people. They talk like real people. Um, and that's something that a lot of films sort of lose and sort of fail to do is they don't have the characters speak like real people. It feels like dialogue rather than just the characters talk. It doesn't feel real. And I think that
Yeah.
is something that I can really appreciate about this film is that it does such a great job at making it feel real. The characters feel like people. Like it never at any point feels like, oh, these are just like, it doesn't feel like the sort of chess pieces or whatever. Like they feel like people. And again, because it's based off his own life and his own story, it's obviously going to work a lot better. And I think that is good because it's him writing about himself and his sort of experience. And I mean, Holly Hunter. We talked about The Incredibles, but we talked about Holly. I think we must have talked about Holly Hunter's Risk as well. Another really, really good performance. I think generally speaking, good. She's a very good actor. I like her in, I think, basically everything I've seen her in, or certainly like her role and her performance, if not the film itself.
Yeah.
I think, like again, you've got you've got Bo Burnham there for like sort of a sort of mini role. Yeah, I just think the film it's really funny, it's really charming. I think it helps that I am a fan of Kumail Nanjiani, that I can watch, like, because that's the thing as well, is I think if this wasn't someone I was a fan of or had an interest in as like a person, I might find it a bit boring because it's just like I don't, like, and not that other people don't have. I guess it also would depend on like the story, like because this is it's an interesting story and it's a very emotional story. I think it because it fit, and they've talked about this, and they've talked about their relationship just in general before, and I don't know if they're planning on doing another one. I read a thing a little while back now where they basically said they were working on like another script about their life, like another autobiographical film about their life. I forgot how funny I did find it. There were like sort of several moments where I was laughing out loud. But it also it does keep the emotion to what it's doing, which I always think is important. Like if you're making, like that's the thing, if you're making a rom-com, it needs to like be funny, and it also does need to have a bit of an emotional weight to it as well. And these, both those need to work together, like coexist together, but they also both need to be done well. And some of them are, and some of them are not. But I think this is sort of a similar thing to what you were sort of saying about some things I had about you, in that it's not like a technical marvel in terms of how it's made or anything, like it's not like got crazy, it's not got like crazy cinematography or direction, the editing isn't especially flashy, like it's just, but again, it doesn't need to be that.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think,
And
yeah,
I
I
think,
think you're
yeah,
exactly
that's the
right.
thing. Is I can, because I
Yeah.
think this film, the sort of the elements that this film needed to get right was the writing and it did a very good job of both of those. So as far as I'm concerned, this film is it like works because the cinema, because the editing and all that technical stuff doesn't really matter here because it's not about that. This isn't, like Christopher Nolan or Martin Scorsese, as you were saying before. Like it's a
It's
character
done
piece,
it's done well to the point that like it's not even something you think about because you're just focused on the narrative. And I think
Yeah,
yeah, you're exactly right. I like when it's not something that you're constantly sort of minding when you're watching a film, like that's really well done, that's really well done, or that's really badly done, that's really badly done, then it's done a great job because that's not the point of this film. It did like technically it does a great job because it doesn't need to be technically great. It
Yeah,
wants you to focus on the narrative, and the narrative is great. Like, and the fact that it's based off a true story just adds to that value. And I
yeah,
was a
and
big fan
it's
of it. To be
yeah, and it is like, it's a story that I think it is an interesting story because in the sense of, it's for I mean for like again, it's about people I have an interest in, I am a fan of. It's like that's part of it. I think that helps. Like I'm definitely going to be more interested in watching a film about people I have an interest in. Like biopics,
yeah,
if I'm interested in like the figure it's about, then yeah, I'll be on board with it. But like sometimes I'm not, and this is one where I am on board. As someone who's been a fan of Kumail for
and
a
it
lot,
executes well.
yeah, and as someone who's been a fan of Kumail for years, and I want him to succeed. I think he's very funny. He's very talented. He has a lot of really great. He's always his the stuff of his stand up I've seen is really good. Whenever I see him in interviews or podcasts, whatever, he always is very spoken, very likable, and he's very funny. Like he is very good at comedy, and I think that's the thing is they're like if you're not a fan of Kumail, it is just sort of gonna be like it probably won't work for someone as well
I
if
still think it'll
it's like
be a good watch.
how
Like, I
I
still
still
think
think
it's
it worked.
constantly
Yeah, it's
worth
like
watching.
I think this isn't a film where you need to be a fan of whoever it's about. You don't really need to know these people because if you don't know that, it's just a really charming, emotional rom-com.
Yeah,
It's not like where you see film
absolutely.
based on musicians and it's like, oh, I don't really know much about Bruce Springsteen or Bob Dylan and I don't give a fuck. And then the film gets made
Yeah,
and it's made for fans of those artists, but it's like, why should I give a shit? You know what I mean? I
exactly.
I
Yeah,
think I think
unless
this still
because
work
like
even if you
I
don't know.
unless, yeah, absolutely. And for that
Like, yeah,
reason, I'm going to give my rating now. Yeah. Oh well, I mean anymore, but I personally I really enjoyed it. Like to me, it's an 8 out of 10. I think it really does. Again,
hmm,
it doesn't do. Yeah, I think it's an 8 out of 10, and more so than not, I think because I can't find too many negatives with it, and I think it does its job incredibly well. But B, I will find it harder to go back to. I do find that it hinders, like, not hinders to the point
yeah,
where it's not like it's an 8 out of 10. It's still a great film, but like that biopic aspect kind of maybe
yeah.
adds a
It's
level of
like,
like
yeah,
personalness. That, yeah,
yeah, and
but
I
eight out of
guess
ten
the
all the
the
same. It's still great.
rewatchability factor because it's like the story now, which isn't a problem with it's like it's not the film's fault obviously, but it's not like something you
It's just the
necessarily
nature of
like
what's going to happen. Yeah,
yeah. And that's fine, and I get that. I on my first watch, I again said 9, and on this rewatch, I bumped it down to an 8. Like I do really like it. The 9, it was like really on the precipice of like an 8 or 9, and I sided with positivity. But I think it's really great. I think this film was nominated for Best Original Screenplay at the Oscars, which I think is really great because it's a very well written film that absolutely deserved an
for
Oscar
that.
nomination.
Yeah,
But
kind of be
I but I frankly think this deserved a lot more. This is better than I think basically every film that was nominated for Best Picture that year. I think Kumail Nanjiani deserved a nomination for lead actor. Ray Romano and
yeah.
Holly
Well, I mean,
Hunter
that's the
both
Academy
deserved.
Awards.
Yeah, like Ray Romano and Holly Hunter both deserved supporting nominations. Like it's, but I like I get why it's not because it's not like the most Oscar. It doesn't have like crazy cinematography, which I mean, I don't think that should be the basis for awards and what is like the best. I don't
I
think that
agree.
really matters. Like if like something's it's in my top 10 of 2017 It's one of them 2017 as far as I'm concerned. And it's not like, again, I wouldn't nominate it in a bunch of like technical stuff, but like it's a very good film and it absolutely deserved more recognition, But I mean, to get nominated for screenplay at all is great because in theory it probably doesn't seem like a film they'd nominate. But I think that's pretty much it.
If you have a loved one, treat them right this Valentine's Day. If you don't, treat yourself.
But yeah, have a good Valentine's Day if you've got someone to celebrate it with. I mean, even if you don't, still have a good day. It's a very Valentine's to me it's a very arbitrary day. It doesn't really mean anything. Like it's just a day that was arbitrarily chosen that doesn't really mean anything.
But one.
Yeah, I just don't. I mean, I think it's a very pointless day to celebrate because every day should be about love. I don't think there should be one specific about love because that's just silly. But I think but if you do have someone, spend the day with them, have a good time, and don't feel if you don't, that's fine too. There's nothing wrong with that. Just spend time with the people you love because that's pretty good too. Yeah, I mean, Harry, you're in Japan. I don't even know what you're gonna do in Japan Valentine's Day.
I'll probably try to, I don't know, just try to have fun with my friends. I think that's the main thing.
Yeah, has been decided. I hope that for you listening, you have a good one. I mean, I hope all your days are good. To be honest, I think like like everyone should have good days, But yeah, I hope that you listening. I hope you listening have enjoyed. If you're listening to this on Valentine's Day, thank you. If you're listening to it with your partner on Valentine's Day, that's I can respect that. I can really, really respect that. If that's your date night is listening to this podcast, I appreciate that. That's great. But yeah, thank you, Harry, for joining me for this week.
Of course, thank you for having me as always.
Thank you all for listening. I hope you've enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye.